lot of men my age go through what is commonly described as a midlife crisis. And I've noticed this tends to happen 40s, maybe late 30s, 50s. And it's usually when a man has been locked into an identity, an archetype, if you will, and he becomes disillusioned because for whatever reason, he discovers that the archetype, the mold that he's fit himself into, the identity that he's thrust upon himself, turns out to not be who he really is. And that's a really, really tough thing to confront. When you look in the mirror and you ask yourself, at the age of 45 or 46 or 47, who the hell are you? What are you doing? It's tough, man. It can be earth-shattering, and it can destroy your family. It can ruin your career, and it can cause you to do a lot of goofy stuff. You make bad decisions. But it's something that's real. It's something that's real, and it's something that starts when we are kids, when we're growing up. You ever notice that a lot of times when you meet people, you inevitably ask, well, what do you do? And a lot of people will define themselves. They'll say, well, I'm Charlie, and I'm a power lifter. Or I'm Charlie and I'm the area supervisor for Southwest Steel. Or I'm Charlie and I'm a United States Marine. Or maybe I'm Charlie and I'm a family man and I'm a great dad or whatever. They get these labels, it's more not what you do but who you are. Does that make sense? You become sort of possessed by ideology, or that's how that happens. You entrench yourself into an identity and it becomes who you are as opposed to what you do. Well, what happens when that gets taken away? What happens when Charlie the Marine, blows his knee out and is told that he can't be in the service anymore? What happens when Charlie the power lifter ruptures his spine and he can't lift anymore? Or, fill in the blank. What happens when any one of these things that we identify ourselves by or as is taken away from us, or we're first forced to confront a major life change? Then we have a crisis. Then it becomes a problem, and a lot of times that can become demoralizing, and a lot of people can't get through it. They can't get through to the other side. They feel like their entire life is shattered and everything's been taken away from them, and it leads to a lot of depression, anxiety, all that stuff. Well, you look at a guy like me, and I was kind of blessed because I had all that stuff happen to me at such an early age that I came to realize a long time ago that none of the things we do are who we are. They're just things we do. Yes, they do make up a large part of our personality, and yes, we can be very passionate about them, but at the end of the day, it's just things we do, not who we are. You're not defined by your possessions, your job, your family, your hobbies, your career. It's just, they're all part of you. They all make up who you are on a day-to-day basis. But the one thing that's kind of kept me free as an individual and not so much attached to being a certain way is the fact that I know that it can all be taken away in an instant and none of it is real. Does that make sense? People have said to me that they're surprised that I had the humility to take Bobby for a coach. They're surprised that I'm able to change programs. They're surprised by a lot of things, like when I admit that I'm doing something wrong. And to say that when I find out I'm wrong about something that it doesn't bother me is not accurate, because it does. When you're doing something for as long as I was doing it for, and I found out, well, man, I might not have known as much as I thought I did, or maybe I was wrong about some of the way I was doing some things, and maybe I had been passing along bad information that I thought was good. Well, yeah, it's a sting. It's a sting to the pride and the ego. But at the end of the day, I also realized that it's an enormous waste of time and investment to continue to do things wrong just to keep the ego satisfied. And I think that's what happens when we become ideologically possessed. When we choose a side, like left or right, you get stuck in this ideology, and then you take on things of the ideology that you might not necessarily agree with, and it also forces you from seeing the good points that the other side might have. So we get this, we're in this box, and we have this box of ideas, and we wind up having to support all those ideas whether we agree with them or not, and we can't look at that other box of ideas because that's wrong. They're wrong, even though some of that actually sounds like it might work. Maybe I should try that. And that's what's cool about like being able to recognize that all these cool things that determine who we are as people, that we like to identify ourselves by, are just things. They don't matter. The car you drive, the amount of money you make, all of the job you do, all that stuff. Is it important? Sure, it can be. Absolutely. It's an achievement that should be recognized, that you want to be recognized for. Yeah. Who doesn't want to be recognized by their peers as being accomplished? But at the end of the day, it's not who I am. It's just things I do. Good morning, baby. So why am I even making this video? Well, interesting observation I made when I'm working with all these YouTube content creators. And all of us have a specialty, if you will, like something that we're known for. Like this guy is known for only doing perfect reps. Or this guy's known for only doing extreme range of motion. Or this guy's known for, fill in the blank, whatever. I'm known for slapping as much weight as I can on the bar and doing ugly reps as many times as I can. Or being weird, whatever, pick one. We have this like little niche that we're in. And I've noticed that it is holding certain people back. We were having part of the conversation was person X would like to try something but can't, because if he does, it could be perceived as a hypocrite because of all the things that he said in the past about doing that certain thing, if that makes sense. Like, let me think of an example. I only bench with perfect reps, so if I were to do touch and go for a set to get some time under tension, everyone's going to bag on me because of all the times that I said that those are bullshit. But then I'm like, well, yeah, but if it helps you get to your goal, because it's just training we're talking about, like, what's the problem? And it got me thinking. I'm like, where in my life have I done this before? I always, whenever somebody presents something, a problem they're having, I always self-reflect and think, well, where in my life am I doing this? It's interesting. It's interesting how we put ourselves in these boxes and we can't go outside of them because we're concerned about the perception of other people, and it holds us back, and it can be detrimental. Like, it can kill your dreams. Like, say you identify yourself as the provider of the family. You're the one who takes care of everything, and you sacrificed all of your dreams to be that provider, because it would go against your identity to maybe share some of that responsibility with your wife. So you could pick that guitar up and start playing it again. Or, maybe you're the goth kid and you dress in all black and you don't like color because it goes against your identity. And it's like, you're going to really give up all colors? Like, maybe you think pink is pretty. You're going to give up pink because it goes against your fabricated persona? Politics, holy crap. I mean, don't get me started on politics. If you're a conservative or a Republican or something like that, and you can't possibly endorse any liberal ideas, even though, both sides have some points that are valid. We do that all the time. We get these identities and we become these identities, and we just make it so we can't break out of them. And that's where the disillusionment comes from 10, 15, 20 years down the road, when you're looking in that mirror and you're like, man, what if I would have taken that illustrator job? Or, what if I would have gotten out of construction and just tried to make a YouTube channel? Or what if, always what if. We have responsibilities. We have families. You can't just blow it all up and say start over at the expense of other people. That's extremely selfish. And it isn't being a provider and a father is super important to me. But that doesn't mean I have to give my dreams up. Style, fashion. I don't need to adhere to the social norms. I can be myself. And I kind of take it to extremes. because I want to be known as the guy who is himself, So there might be something of a flip side to that. Maybe the pendulum swung a little too far in the other direction, and now being weird and edgy is my identity as opposed to just being who I want to be and being myself. And I think that's, at the end of the day, is where it's really at. Do any of us know really who we are? Are we doing what we do because we love it, or are we doing what we do because that's what we've been forced into and we've convinced ourselves that that's who we are? It's interesting to think about. If you really sit down and think about it, and if you're really honest with yourself, are you doing things truly because you love them, or because you've boxed yourself into this identity and you have to kind of convince yourself that this is what you want to do? Because that's the comforting thing to do. And we all do it. Most of us do it without even, really reflecting upon it. That usually comes later when we run into the crisis of, usually when something happens, there's an upset in the process, if you will, and then we're forced to confront ourselves, and powerlifting's a good example. The first time, second time, third time you injure yourself and you keep going, you ask yourself, what am I doing this for? Why do I keep hurting myself? Is it because I truly love powerlifting, or because it's become such a big part of my identity that I can't live with the idea of not being the best, or being capable, or being at the top of my weight class? Would I still keep doing this even if I was just a mediocre nobody and I could barely lift 1,000-pound total? I don't know. That's my challenge for you guys today. Think about things. Where are you holding yourselves back? Where's areas of your life that you feel like being rigid or being stuck in a system or a certain way of doing things is preventing you from maybe exploring better options? I don't know. It's good to self-reflect every once in a while. And that's kind of what I'm all about. You know what I mean? My entire life has been just self-reflecting on one disaster after another, and slowly over time we get better. And then, if we're lucky, we get to pass it forward. You know what I mean? What I always say, steel sharpens steel. Love you guys.